Welcome to the Steel Yard. Today we're in the welding shop and we're going to talk about our 6x48 belt sander with a 10-inch sanding disc, combination sander. Six by 48 belt sander. The reason why it's called 6x48 belt sander is the belt is 6 inches wide and the circumference of it is 48 inches. This is also a 10-inch sanding disc, so it's like a combination sander. On this particular sander, there are actually 3 different buttons on the side. There's an on switch, an off switch, and an emergency kind of like shut off button that is like right here, which sometimes, if this is used as a stop, what you need to be able to, like so right now, if I have that emergency stop on, I can't turn on the machine at all. But if I push in and twist, you can hear that little pop, it pops out. Now I have the ability to turn on this belt sander. Very simple, just an on-off system. This machine over here is a air filter, so you can see pipes connected to the sander. There's a switch here, so before I use this machine, what I like to do is I turn this air filter on. And then from there, I can turn on the belt sander. Got my safety glasses. There is a sign on this machine that says no gloves on this machine. The reason for that is here in this studio, we're trying to discourage people from wearing gloves because it can sometimes create situations where maybe you would get closer to the sand level than you would need to, and your glove could get stuck in this crack. There is a very small gap. You don't want a big gap because you can get your fingers stuck in the machine, so it is something to be mindful of. In particular, I don't want to be grinding little pieces of metal like this with my hands on this particular machine. You might want to use a set of vice grips or something like that. But what I'll do is I'll turn this on. If I did need to use this quick shut off, emergency shut off, the way that would work is I smash that button and it shuts the machine off. Now, I cannot turn it on until I disengage the switch, which twists. Finished. So this right here, this is like a little kind of a square, but also will do different angles. It goes up to 45 degrees on either side. There is a little kind of triangle arrow that you would line up. You'd line up your angle with. So in particular, if I wanted a 45-degree angle, I'd line up my arrow on that 45. And now I can give myself a 45-degree angle if I so want. If I need to make sure something's ground flat, square, I will turn that back to the double zeros. I'll turn that back to the double zeros, and then now I can make sure that something is a nice flat square surface. Freehand wise, I can use the table to my advantage and get my angles like this. I can also work up here, applying medium, light pressure. I'm not pushing so hard on the belt that it stops the belt or slows the motor down. I also don't want to be pushing so hard that I can slip into the belt. Want to let the machine do the work. Again, you can use the table to your advantage, right? Making sure to keep my fingers away, especially away from here. I don't want to be like this. I want to keep some distance when I can. Sometimes you'll be using a much smaller piece of metal on this machine, but again, we don't want to be using little nubs like this. We want to keep a good distance and not put too much pressure to the point where we want to fall into the machine or push it over. Sometimes when I use a smaller piece of metal on this machine, right, kind of small, my hands are kind of in the way, I can use a vice grip to help give us distance. Because this is an angle iron, I like to use the angles to my advantage, right? I can lock the vice grips in place most securely like this. So now, instead of me being this close, I can use the vice grips to my advantage. Now, with the vice grips like this, they can slip a little, right? So what I like to think about is which way the vice grip's going, right? So it's going to be nice and strong with it faced like this. So like you saw in particular, if I'm pushing too hard, I could slip and get my piece stuck, which again, we don't want to do. We want to think about where our leverage is going. So in particular, with this piece, I want to flatten out that point. Make sure the vice grips are nice and tight. So you'll see when I first did it, right, I'm making sure my vice grips, the leverage is in the right position. But towards the end of that shot, I did use the vice grips in this position, but I'm using the table to my advantage, and I'm pushing straight in to the table like this. Again, creating some distance between myself and the machine. And I'm not want to push so hard that I slip. So this was with a piece of angle iron. You can see nice and smooth on that side. I want to show you with the round piece. So again, the round piece fits my vice grips a little bit different. So I'm going to loosen those. Making sure they're nice and tight. So we saw how it can wiggle, right, if we're not careful. So thinking again about how our vice grips are situated. Using the table. So, in particular, on the sanding disc, there is a rotation sticker that is telling me that circle is going to rotate this way. So if we think about the way something rotates and like some centrifugal force, physics in that way, if I start to grind on this side, it's going to want to pull my piece over to here. So if we think about an imaginary line in the middle of this table, we want to grind on the side that's kind of pushing our piece into the table. And I'll give you a demo with my vice grip with my small piece.